Update. Am I the arsehole for defending a bride who left her husband at the altar? Original post. Okay, so me and my husband attended a wedding. It was his kinda cousin niece's wedding, and I'm not sure how to describe the relationship, but they were close growing up. The wedding was a bit unique. There was a brunch before the actual ceremony with bride and groom. Then, for an hour, the wedding party left to get ready while all the guests were still at lunch. Then the actual ceremony and the real reception was supposed to happen after. I thought everything was normal. At the brunch, the couple looked happy and excited and a little nervous, maybe. My husband had told me there had been a little drama leading up to the wedding because the groom's family insisted that the groom's ex should attend the wedding because they have a good relationship. The ex is an emergency worker, an EMT, and she apparently saved mother-in-law's life once. The bride didn't want the ex to attend, but she caved in. At the actual ceremony, as you might have guessed from the title, the bride never showed. After a few minutes of awkward silence, with the music playing as we waited for the bride's father came and told everyone she had left. Groom was crying, mother-in-law was screaming. It was such a huge mess. At the reception, they basically just told people to take to-go boxes of food so it didn't go to waste. Since a lot of family was in town for the wedding, bride's side of the family was hosting a reunion. At the reunion, the bride said the reason she left the groom at the altar was because at the brunch, the ex told her that she had slept with the groom and apparently showed the bride a sex tape she made with the groom. Bride was distraught and left because she didn't want to marry a cheater. Groom's side of the family were slandering the bride on every social media platform possible. So the bride's side decided to fire back, and they were publicly accusing the groom of cheating on her, and it was just a big shitstorm. Groom comes to bride's house to try and clear things up, so the groom didn't actually cheat on the bride. The sex tape was from years and years ago. The groom's appearance just hadn't changed that much, so the bride believed the ex when she said it was recent. The ex was just trying to break them up. The ex confessed to it too. To my surprise, instead of everyone being angry at the ex, everyone turned on the bride. Her family was pissed at her for wasting money, being gullible, not letting the groom defend himself first. Everyone was yelling at her. I thought it was crazy, so I spoke up in her defense. I would have believed it too, if there was video evidence, plus the fact that she was practically forced into the ex attending their wedding. Now the whole family is against me, and the bride, and it's so awkward. And everyone acting cold. My husband is upset because she now feels like if someone accused him of cheating on me, I'd just take their word for it. But I feel that's completely unfair. My reaction for OP. If you want to defend the bride, then that's your prerogative. End of. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Comment 1. Sounds like the groom's family still likes his ex more and wanted her at the wedding for that purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't be acting so stupid and putting the blame all on the bride-to-be. Comment 2. This is exactly it. I would 200% end the wedding if someone told me my wife's ex was basically being forced on me to show up. Mother-in-law knows she effed up, and everyone knows it's not the bride's fault, but it's easier to gang up on the bride than actually deal with their BS. Comment 3. Sounds like the groom has been having an affair and threatened to cut ex off if she didn't say it was a lie. I'd be putting my Columbo hat on to look at the metadata for that tape. It sounds like husband is now seeing the cracks in the story, so I doubt he'll let it go if they're close. Whether it was true or not, that wedding was not happening as soon as ex stepped in. No one was getting married that day once she said it, even if the groom refuted it immediately. Now for the updates. Mini update. Okay, so my hubby came back to a hotel room and I showed him the post because he knows I like using Reddit. I mentioned one specific comment to him where one Redditor asked me, how are we sure the tape was old and that the groom and ex aren't just covering their affair up by lying and saying it's old? I told my husband and at first he laughed, but he started to think about the whole situation, I guess. While hubby was still at the bride's house, trying to help with the situation after I left, the environment was getting too much for me, so I went back to the hotel. The groom had been groveling to the bride, even though he was exonerated by ex admitting it was fake. He was still being very apologetic, which threw my husband off a bit. Like, even though he maintained he didn't cheat, instead of husband being angry about being left at the altar and publicly humiliated, he seemed to just want wife to forgive him. I thought this would be normal because groom probably feels horrible about allowing the ex to ruin the day and hurt the wife like that. But my husband said it was unusual behavior for the groom. Apparently, the groom is the high horse type and he would never apologize for a mistake that wasn't his. Husband knows the groom better than me, so my husband thinks it's plausible that the groom did cheat by the way he's acting, but he's not going to bring it up because of how high tensions are, and it might just make things worse. I also explained how and why I felt like my husband was being unfair to me by saying he thinks I believe anyone who accused him of cheating on me. He apologized and told me he was just stressed out earlier and he feels like we wasted money on this trip and we haven't seen our kid for days over this wedding that got blown up over a lie. Bride texted me thanking me for defending her. Most of the slandering social media posts were taken down. The ex posted on social media playing victim. Well, not really, but she's posting like heartbreak stuff and those effing depressed Bart Simpson memes. At her big age, the groom's mother pulled up to the bride's house after I left and was threatening to burn the place down because she was mad the bride humiliated her son over a lie because it was such a huge wedding. He had many co-workers and staff there. I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm tired and it's been a long-ass day. Edit plus question. A few people are saying I should show this post to the bride, but I'm a bit scared she won't react well to me putting her business online because I don't know her that well. But at the same time, I feel like she might appreciate that most people are on her side. But also, I don't really want her to see my conspiracy theory about how the husband actually cheated on her because there's no actual proof. Should I? Update 2. Okay, so I decided to send this to the bride. I also told my mother-in-law, who I'm super close with, what was going on. I'll start with the bride first. So, as I predicted, she was a little mad. I put her business online. I called her and we made small talk for a couple of minutes, avoiding the elephant in the room, but then I told her I posted about this on Reddit. I sent her the link while we were in call. She didn't yell or anything, but she told me I shouldn't have done that. I assured her I didn't use any names or defining descriptions, and she hung up the phone. A few minutes later, she called me back and told me she scrolled through the comments and stuff and it made her feel a bit better. Then she apologized for snapping at me, but I don't feel like she did. She told me that she felt like a lot of the comments were blowing things out of proportion when it comes to how you guys speak of the mother-in-law and groom. She said, mother-in-law isn't evil like the post made her out to be. She also said she understands why mother-in-law insisted on ex being BC at wedding, and that when mother-in-law threatened to burn down the house, she wasn't being serious and it was taken out of context. When I asked stuff like, are you still going to get married to the groom? She just kept saying, I don't know. And she sounded sad, so I dropped it. She also told me she doesn't think groom cheated on her and that my husband just has a bad perception of groom because he has a hard shell to crack. After she hung up on me, my husband called his mother to update her on what's happening because she couldn't make it to the wedding. My husband's mother told us that the ex never really saved mother-in-law's life. Basically, all she did was inject her with an EpiPen for a mild allergy. My mother-in-law feels like she saved her life was just for dramatics, to guilt the bride into letting ex attend the wedding. My mother-in-law also feels like the bride's mother-in-law had nothing to do with the ex sabotaging the wedding. She said that the bride's mother-in-law isn't an idiot, and even if she did love the ex that much, she would never purposely ruin her son's wedding, because she's one of those boy mums. Story 2. Am I the arsehole for letting you know I am divorcing you by sending you a thread on the website that you used to ignore me? plus update. Original post. Hi Stefan, maybe you'll finally listen. And if you're wondering if you can just speed home and stop me from doing this and leaving, it's too late. I'm sending you this after I've already loaded everything in the car and left. Don't worry, I spoke with our landlords and took my name off the lease. I've set up a direct deposit for the next month's rent. After that, you're on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I'm guessing you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you're a great husband and father-to-be, aren't you? Well, buddy, let me break it down for you in a language you'll understand. I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 35 male, for 5 years, and we've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine, but in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me, from my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering, right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She has accidentally destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewelry. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's boobs on Reddit than talking to me. Literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to do that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me. But he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate. And he never cleans. The house, the dishes, laundry, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional, as long as he's got his job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mother-in-law started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that truly broke me was when we were talking about future childcare, and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life, whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he wouldn't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear for what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in. A place where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi! He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage with your mother and the woman of Reddit whose boobs you don't even deserve. Am I the asshole for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years? Let his mother mistreat me and made me fear for our future daughter's safety. Tiny update. Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my boobs thing. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information. That could lead to doxing him. Any and all people who are pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I'm not from South Carolina, I am not moving in with any other guy, and I'm also not sleeping around. Now for the update. People on Reddit have been spreading lies about me, claiming I'm a deadbeat and that Stefan has to work 2 jobs to support me. They're even fabricating stories about me cheating and moving in with the men I supposedly had affairs with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we're not close to any neighbours. I've never cheated, and I make slightly more money than Stefan, just $1 an hour difference. I believe these rumours could be from trolls or Stefan's friends trying to stir trouble after my posts. For now, I'm staying with family and working with my lawyer to ensure our safety. I can't share any more details at this time, but I urge anyone in a similar situation to consult a pro bono lawyer specialising in rental rights. That's what I did, since both Stefan and I were on the lease and had completed the minimum rental period. I was able to work with my landlords, a kind elderly couple, to move out. If you're in a similar situation, there are steps you can take to protect yourself. Running a credit check on yourself is also important, something I did, and it's another issue I'm currently addressing. As for Stefan, he's getting desperate. Both he and my mother-in-law have launched smear campaigns. My mother-in-law claims I'm an unfit mother and neglecting my responsibilities. I'm not responding to these publicly, but I'm gathering all evidence to refute these baseless claims. This won't be a he said she said situation. I have the facts. Stefan deleted his Reddit account, supposedly because someone found him, but he also claims to have received death threats, which seems contradictory. He's also sent his friends to harass me online, and I've received some nasty direct messages, possibly from them. Stefan always made me feel like I was losing my mind. Whenever I expressed concerns, he'd dismiss or belittle them, making me second-guess myself. He'd invite people over without telling me, then claim he had mentioned it, even though I knew he hadn't. He'd also twist situations, like when I asked for a specific meal, he'd bring home something different and argue that's what I'd requested. He even took credit for household tasks I had done and gaslighted me into thinking I was misremembering events. At one point, I was convinced I had early onset dementia or schizophrenia. I started documenting our interactions to keep track of reality. Even then, Stefan would say, "You must be misremembering," despite clear evidence to the contrary. Sharing my story online has been my way of reclaiming control. For too long, I felt powerless, doubting myself and questioning my sanity. Posting my experiences publicly was a step forward toward finding support and ensuring my story couldn't be manipulated by him. Thank you for all your support during this challenging time.